Hi, good. Hello and welcome, and looking forward to this one. And who we've got tonight on Festival of the Unexplained is we've got the Ghost Maidens, Sybil, and we've got Rose as well. So I'd like to introduce them and bring them on for this lovely next hour of the show.
Hello.
Hi, are you okay?
Yeah, hi,
how's the Ghost Maidens?
The Ghost Maidens is doing good, actually. We're doing great.
Yeah.
Excellent. We've got seem to have a massive keeping very busy out there, aren't you? You know, not at present moment in time, but I've gone through some of your stuff, especially on Instagram, and it's just some of the locations you've covered and all that as well. So I'm really looking forward to finding a way and asking you some questions and stuff like that as well. Do you want to tell us a little bit more about yourselves before we start?
Yeah, so me and Sybil, this is Sybil and this is Rose. Like most people don't really know like who's who. We met each other 5 years ago, 6 years ago,
something like that.
As
a long
cooks.
Time ago.
We were working together in the kitchen. And we were working, and then we got talking, and then Sybil introduced me to Ghost Adventures with Zach Bagans. And that's when I was like, what are these people doing? I was completely obsessed the first moment, and Sybil has already been obsessed for
many years.
And then we combined our powers. Sybil is an art historian and fine art background, and I have a theater background, so we are combining our powers to do paranormal investigation in our own way. So we kind of reinvent the way we are looking at the paranormal in the West.
We like to do things very differently.
Yes.
Because we think a lot of what goes on in the paranormal world is informed by TV, and that's cool. But it's also becoming the same beast.
And it's nice to get out there, isn't it? An experience of what you're putting over. And that's what you're saying. You're seeing it in a different, not in the TV bubble. You're really experiencing it and getting out there as well.
It's a part of it, though.
It's definitely a part of it, but it's like the whole picture.
Yeah. I think we also see the paranormal as it manifests right now in our own culture as a pop cultural phenomenon, but that's not the whole story. It's also philosophical quest for truth and the big answers or the big questions in life that we've been asking ourselves for centuries and thousands of years. And I think we are interested in the whole package.
And you're based over in the Netherlands, aren't you?
Yeah.
Yes.
Just in generally, do you feel since you've met up 5 or 6 years ago and you've got into the paranormal field, do you feel over in the Netherlands as a country as well that there's a lot more people really interested in this than who you're in and around as well? Do you think that it's just exploded?
No, not at all here. People are not into the paranormal. We've hit a gold mine.
Yes. Yeah, I think in the Netherlands there is a background of just not really believing in anything. I think in the Netherlands religion has been like not part of, or not as big of urgency. Like how do you say? Like
not very urgent
for a long time. So also like religion and superstition are a little bit frowned upon.
Yeah, I can vouch for that as well as what we do in the paranormal field. I think maybe 30 years ago in the UK, there was not a lot of investigators, and it was again frowned upon it in that field of, are you one of them people that just go and do that? And then you would get people being openly talking about that topic or subject as well. But I've certainly seen some of your pictures as well. Any experiences that you could relate to for us? And I'm seeing a lot of vast like woods and stuff like that. You seem to be in the countryside quite a bit as well. Anything you've stumbled across just even on your little getting out and about and investigating on these places? Have you come across things that you haven't expected?
Well, all the time.
Yeah.
But mostly in unexpected corners. Like I feel like the stories and the like the human experiences are mostly the most paranormal.
Yeah. We love ghost stories from other people. I think those are the best. And then, you know, also living like a sort of artistic life, the paranormal things are normal. So like
Yeah.
like intuition and having that certain connection or having a feeling that this is what you should go after, like those things are kind of like registered as normal for us.
Yeah.
So I'm sure other people would call them paranormal, but when you follow a life of intuition, then you kind of just take it in as it comes, and then it becomes normal.
Like certain synchronicities, I'm almost expecting them now.
Yeah. So you get used to it out there in the field as you're going along. It's like your sixth sense, you know something's going to happen. You get that used to it as well, don't you? Touching back with yourself, Rose, basically as you've only been in and around it 5 or 6 years ago introduced, I would pick up that Sybil has had this intuition from a lot younger and picking up earlier days of that sixth sense and the intuition. Are you sensitives yourselves in and around the spiritual world?
I think all artists are really sensitive for this sort of thing. There's just from the last period of history, recent history, like people think that art and the paranormal are separate, but for us, for example, they're the same thing. When you create something, you go to another place, you channel things from another, you channel inspiration, like that divine frenzy. That's all the same for us. So
I think
they're really connected.
When I met Sybil, for me was more the moment that I realized that, like the thing I've always liked about theater is coming from the same source as my sensitivity growing up as a child. I've always been very sensitive, always picked up other people's emotions, like mostly in that sense. I don't know if that's necessarily paranormal, but it's definitely
some energy.
And Sybil introduced me to see that also as something mundane or something that is not necessarily like magic as we know it from Harry Potter, for example.
Do you see or sense in your mind's eye anywhere like that? Do you link in together when you're both working? Do you both have that gut intuition as well, where the energy's building and you're linking in with each other as well, with the same spirits that's in and around you and the energies?
Well, yeah, definitely. Sometimes we say the same sentence at the same moment, or I have a dream and then Sybil had the same dream, or I tell her something in a dream that like we talk about the day after. It's
Or we show up wearing the same outfit. That's a good one.
Yeah.
But my daughter does that quite a bit around me. She gets the gut intuition and the sixth sense as well. And my lad shuts off from it. I feel it at the minute as well. I've seen things there of like little questions you put out there to your followers and stuff like that as well. Can a ghost ever transform itself into something else? Yeah. Have you ever experienced these shadows and energies changing and changing shapes of whatever you've captured in the past?
Well, I think these questions come more from a more researching our human relation to the paranormal, because I think that's just as much a part of the paranormal as these specters that we are thinking about or that we're talking about. So I think most of the time it's more interesting to map the culture, like how we look at the paranormal, because that says so much about us. And there are so many conventions and rules that are just like a ghost is a deceased person, or a demon is this, and you have to do this with a demon, or an angel is another thing. And I think these rules, let's just examine these rules for a moment before we're saying that it is a ghost, you know?
Yeah, because our conception of what a ghost is now hasn't always been the case. So it's also a reflection of the people that are alive that keep the thoughts about the afterlife also alive.
So realistically, we're taking the barriers down already with labeling it as one thing or another, aren't we? So
absolutely.
You're very open to all that as well. And again, with you're covering like the Europe side of it where you're based as well. Do you go off into any other countries, or have you not got that far yet, or you've got that much to do where you are?
So you've been on some investigations in the United States.
Yeah, I've been to Florida with the ghost hunters of Southern Florida, and yeah, I've done a few. And then the movie that we're filming was another one that we did. But normally we don't really like to rely on science to kind of lead us through investigations. Like, we really like to take a historical approach and an artistically based approach.
Yeah.
Because I think that's what we're good at. That's what we know a lot about. And I don't think that people should rely on technology to let them know about the afterlife. I don't think that's seeing the whole picture.
How did it go in Florida when you was over there, Sybil?
It was fine. I didn't really, I never really see anything. Like, that's because I'm very skeptical, and I know a lot of people say that they're skeptics, but they are just, it's not really in the same way. Like, I'm really looking at the whole phenomenon like an anthropologist would. So like, there's this group, and they have a certain relation with each other, and they have a goal, and they have a way of doing something, and they have certain locations they go to. So I'm really looking at the whole thing together. So I'm not really like, okay, I'm here, I'm looking for a ghost. I'm not really expecting that.
Our mission is not to prove anything or to even help spirits, however beautiful that would be, but we are more we're mapping the territory in a contemporary way. So like we could call ourselves like performative anthropologists.
You're open there to receive, and you're picking up on the intelligence of spirits, and you just really enjoying it by the sounds of it as well. Another little question for you. I've seen things like around the spirits speak the same language from what they were on this plane. Myself, if I go, because obviously we've got Wales, Scotland, England, and obviously Ireland. I've been over to Dublin and all that before in the past. And if I get a spirit that I'm not too sure about with its accent, or if it's a stronger talkative way that it's responding to me, I will always ask it to speak in the universal language, which to me is English. So again, I know these questions there. What's your beliefs on certain spirits will talk of the language that they were based on this plane?
I'd say that, like, that would be the first thing you would try, right? To speak the language with the spirit from the country where you are.
Yeah, with their talk, that's good for you. So always ask your team to say, speak my universal language. So if you come across something like that, if you're spreading out a field or going to a different country, you can always try that, and your team will help you with that as well.
Well, I would say I wouldn't even speak out loud. No. I would rely on some, because that's why speak a language. That's for my human body to understand other physical bodies. That's not.
It's even a cultural thing. Why would
why would I expect a spirit to speak my language in the first place?
So we are actually developing ourselves a way to communicate with spirits in a way that doesn't necessarily require language. So we've been making our own divination die.
Yeah.
Like a dice that, for example, has facial expressions on it, or that has symbols on it, that because let's not assume that spirits do speak our language.
Yeah. I like to do automatic drawing,
and
Rose likes to do automatic poetry.
Or speech. Yeah.
I was just going to touch on that. I can see you doing automatic writing, but you've just covered on that actually. What I usually do sometimes as well is put a center mark on the paper and ask spirits just to go yes and no. So you can have a corner for your answers as well. Keeps things simplistic with like your pendulum. If you use the pendulum with yes and no, where you're saying you've got the dice and all that. Is there anything
like you're saying yes and no now, and I find this really interesting. So that's why I'm interrupting you right now.
Yeah, that's fine.
Like if you would speak to a person, like in a conversation where you're talking about very serious, very personal stuff, which is normally the case when you talk to a spirit, then yes and no doesn't really cover it. Like these questions are so difficult to answer. Like if a living person cannot do it, give you like a simple yes or no, or a 1 or a 2 or a 3 or something you can spell.
But you can build forwards up from that, can't you? That's what I'm saying. And you can obviously put some more questions on the bottom of your automatic writing with the page as well. So what I'm saying is there for the general people that's watching, they can do it simplistic and build up to learning their knowledge as well within the field.
Well, I'd say that the key to being any paranormal investigator is pure honesty. And that's whether it's like honest with your intentions, honest with why you're there, honest with how you feel about certain things. I'd always say that's the same case in art. You're not a good artist if you're not honest.
Have you come across any objects that you have felt wanted to stay away from? Any haunted objects you feel, or any objects that haven't been quite settled, or have you felt a room uneasy or anything like that? And you think, oh, I don't really, not too keen on these objects in a room or anything like that?
I think the jury is still out for us on haunted objects. I think this is a really modern way of relating to the past. Like normally objects for people in history has always been like some sort of like way of magically thinking and connecting to something, connecting to an idea, connecting to a person, a place. But I think people really like objects now, and they like to have a sort of connection with them because like we're a capitalistic society. We really like consuming objects, and we show our love through objects. We give objects to other people. We kind of show our love this way. So I think generally people do find objects haunted, but taking a step back, for me, I don't really think objects are haunted. I don't think spirits can attach themselves to that, or that they exist through an object.
I think we have seen things in the past and debates and discussions where like the Dybbuk box and all that has virtually been debunked and that type of thing, other than like say a witchcraft spell or that type of thing as well. I'm just trying to think of, I think there's more residual energies on that object or that type of stuff from a person's ring or a watch or anything like that as well, that retains their energy as well.
Well, I think it's more likely that the people who are engaging with this object are the ones who are supplying the energy for the object to manifest as something that we could call or define as haunted. But I don't think that this object, without the human story attached to it, because I think being haunted is nothing more than historically charged with meaning, and we are the ones giving meaning. The object doesn't have meaning on its own. So if anything is haunted, it's the people.
Yeah,
it's the human story, the history,
the way they come across as well to you within the spirit realm.
The haunted people.
Yeah. With and anywhere when you're working and you're receiving, that's what they're trying to express is what they've lived when they've lived on this plane, isn't it? That's what we're saying.
I'd still say it's the living people.
Yeah. I think it's the living people giving a story to the object. Because if I gave you a ring and you had no idea of the story behind it, you'd be like, nice ring, but if I gave you a ring and I said this ring was taken off the finger of a murder who was a woman who was murdered, you'd be like, oh.
There are some people who can get like mediums, psychics. They can get more from the image, but I don't know how that works.
I had a quick look over on the YouTube channel and all that. Have you done many videos on there? I've seen one where he was blindfolded, but I haven't watched the full episode of that as well. Do you want to run us into anything on the YouTube side of it?
That was our psychic test. We used some Zehner cards to see if we could predict, because it's like this kind of game where if you can predict more than a couple of these cards in a row, statistically you're psychic. And we kind of like playing with math and like guess and like, those sort of things. But apparently I'm psychic.
She's psychic. I knew you were.
Yeah. We have proof now.
I'm a little bit more than average. But I wouldn't call myself psychic. I wouldn't.
Even so, the power of the mind is just amazing.
Exactly. I don't think people give enough credit to that.
Yeah, if there is a mission we're like let's just give the living people and the power of their imagination, the power of their creativity, some more credit.
Yeah.
It's not always the afterlife. It's not always extraterrestrials. Sometimes it's our beautiful creative skills.
Excellent. Anything else around the movie? Do you want to tell us, like the viewers and all that, about the movie that you're getting up and running and stuff like that? Anything you'd like to touch on with the movie?
Yeah, so we did an investigation about 2 years ago, and then Corona happened and all of these things, and we spent some more time thinking about it, and then we spent a lot of time researching the history of this place. So it connects to kind of everything. It's about Dutch history, of course, but then how Dutch history kind of changed the whole world. And then we end up at this place, and we do our investigation there, and then we decided to go back. So it's like a double header. It's like a big time 2-year in the making episode.
Yeah, we did an investigation, and it wasn't that special at first, we thought, but somehow this location and the events there, they kept on haunting us a little bit. So we were like, we have to go back there. We have to make this a bigger project, and it's going to be a paranormal investigation with our own
methods.
Yeah.
That's fantastic as well. When you've gone back as well, did you pick up anything that was quite similar to what happened the first time to the second time you revisited?
Well, we did more research, so we know a lot more about the place now. So that also allows us to be more receptive to the location. So that will definitely increase our personal relationship with the location, and I think that will always. That's a portal for experience, for sensation, for emotion. So it will definitely deliver, I think.
So for any of our friends that's watching there, where would you recommend going over where you're located and based? You want to tell people where you're based over there in Holland, and anything about the theatres that you've picked up on when you've been in the theatres and all that type of thing? Where would you say for people that's watching to try out and have a little look around over where you are?
Gevangenpoort, right?
Yeah, the Gevangenpoort.
Yeah,
it's the old prison gate.
It's from the 1500s, I think.
1400s.
Yeah. It's an old prison where they used to lock up
everyone,
and it's a haunted place. We had talks, conversations with the people, the guard securities there. And they're the ones with the most interesting stories.
I bet they must have come across some certain things in their times as well.
Crying,
swords falling off the wall.
Yes, there's also some very famous ghosts there from like famous people in Dutch history. And,
wow.
Our favorite story, I think, from that place is Catherine de Chasseur
and the brothers de Wit.
They are I can talk about this for 4 more hours. So
I love the way you just flowed out with that names again. Say that again. That was fantastic. It just flowed so naturally. Is that prison by the docks? Am I quite close with that? Is this prison quite close to a docks?
It's close to a lake.
Right, okay. I could see water, that was why.
Yeah.
Right. Also as well, have you been around any eerie churches or any experiences around churches?
Yeah, we're church crawlers. We love going to church.
Have you ever tried just putting the palm of your hand on the church door and closing your eyes and then just seeing what you sense then? That's a nice little one for you to try out next time you go to a church. Tell us your experiences around the church.
Yeah, I love that idea of touching the past. Yeah, of course. Yeah, there's no denying it,
They're very spiritual places. So it always, I go to churches to...
very artistic also.
To get in a meditative state. Like I love to go to churches to write, for example, because it's just the entire atmosphere in a church was just created for going inside your head and seeing things more clearly. So
But also as well, when you're at a churchyard as well, you do get drawn to the graves as well, don't you? You get drawn to, I wonder who that character was there, and you know they were. You automatically think because there's a big headstone, you think, oh, they must have been wealthy and stuff like that as well. I found out over in the UK, I don't think we're allowed headstones like more than 3 foot off the floor now. Well, there's a certain height restriction, so the older like headstones, you won't type of get that anymore in the UK moving forwards. So there's a restriction on the heights because a lot of the grounds, obviously over the years, they topple, don't they? So I get drawn to certain names as soon as I walk in a churchyard. I'm like, I'm looking for a certain name I've just received.
Story, right? When you see a name, you don't know why, but you're like, I want to know more.
Yeah,
the inquisitive.
Yeah.
So inquisitiveness, isn't it, when you go around the churchyards? What have you experienced? What equipment do you use when you're going out?
Just the basics, just cameras. You know, we just cameras in ourselves.
Yeah, like my most equipped tool is poetry. Like I like to, for me, it works the best when I just put myself in you could say speaking in tongues if you want it, like in a biblical way, but I would say I just
Sure, Rose, yeah.
Like language, and then whenever that feels like it's just flowing, like then sometimes something comes up that feels meaningful, and that's what I normally do. But yeah.
Have you ladies ever experienced anything with scrying in the mirror? Have you ever done any of that scrying where you're trying to bring spirits through a portal within the mirror or anything like that?
Yeah, well, I think the clarification is, though, for us that we're not really trying to bring something through. We're just trying to reach a place in ourselves
to connect.
That's some sort of connection, but not necessarily. I'm not focusing on bringing something out. Like it's me. It's about me, and where I arrive at a point where something seems clear. You know.
Yeah, as like magic, but then as a feeling, not necessarily in order to change something in the world or to,
It's a little bit like the back of the wardrobe where there's so much of this field to open up on. It's like going into a different land or a different time, isn't it? Sometimes when we're connecting with spirits as well. Before any investigations, do you carry any protection? Where do you do a prayer, or do you do any type of protection to look after yourselves, or you just go open naturally out and invest?
Well, I guess it's a little bit, you can compare it to a theater performance where there's a moment where you wanted to know it started, and there's a moment where you wanted to have ended it. But I think there's not one thing I always do. I think like the most common ritual for us is just to have a drink afterwards and to talk about it. I think that is for us a ritual enough. I don't have to say a prayer or a kiss an amulet. I think for some people that's their closing ritual.
So you have a good retake and a recap on what you've experienced.
I think framing for us is closing something.
Yeah.
What would you say? Go on, carry on.
And then when we kind of go into a thing or we go into a focus, then it's like, all right. And then we set the path. And that's kind of how we start. And we set the parameters. It's all really about framing for us. And I think that's also a really artistic way of thinking about something. Like, how do you frame it? What's your angle? And how do you close it?
But I think the moment you turn on your cameras, that's basically already opening the portal. So in most cases, it's already a ritual where you're like, there was a before and there's now. This is the mark.
Yeah.
This is the mark in time where we say this is happening right now. So, and turning it off. Yeah.
Have you ever come across when you've both walked up like a long path or anything like that, or on land, and you thought about ley lines or magnetic lines? Have you ever had, like a lot of people in the UK say about Glastonbury and Bath and these magnetic lines and ley lines? How have you ever experienced anything where you feel the energy and the power is very strong, just walking over a certain section of a place that you're locating?
I've been to Sedona, Arizona, and that was definitely an interesting landscape. I mean, I'm also from a rural community in Colorado, so I just think that sensation you get being in the nature is a different one you get than in the city.
Yeah.
So I think people are very sensitive. They've just become desensitized to living with each other. But like, for example, I have a high sensibility for people. So
Yeah.
it just evolves in a different way depending on your environment.
That's excellent. Where would you say is the one of your favourite place? Well, you mentioned the favourite place, but where are you itching to go back to at present moment? Where do you really want to just get back out to?
Anywhere outside of the Netherlands.
Anywhere.
There's a beautiful big house in France. Like a friend of ours, he recommended the location to us. And I really think like the moment where like traveling becomes a little bit more free or like possible, I would love to go there. It's like in an old French village, beautiful old stone house. It has been in the family for generations, and it's really it's ready for us to be picked like a fresh fruit.
I have to say, I also really like Wales. That's also a feeling that I got like, wow, this place is old.
In Scotland. I'd love to go to Scotland.
I'm 20 minutes away from the Welsh border from where I am.
Incredible Wales. I remember I was like, oh, this is where Merlin lives. Okay, yeah. There's definitely dragons here.
Some amazing castles as well. You know, I've done quite a lot of castles in Wales as well. They are amazing.
Oh, everything is so crumbly and historical and old, and it's magical there.
There's many a time I've just done a live from like 12 o'clock at night and just been sat on the top of the castle on my own.
You're so lucky.
I've always had a thing with old castles though.
For sure.
Like I like going to France and Belgium as a little girl. Also, they have a lot of ruins, like you call it ruins, right? I've always been fascinated with that. So I would love to do some more castle investigations.
But also, I would like to go to a cave, a very old cave. I would love to do that.
I've been to some caves. I think, speaking about nature and experience in nature, cave. Like in Belgium, in the Ardennes, there's a cave, and it really looked like a cathedral, like the main chamber in the cave. And it really felt like my perspective of time completely shifted. It really felt very, very magical.
So you've got tunnels and all that. Is there any hidden places that many people don't know about over there? It's like, I think about a year ago in Manchester, they found an opening to underground, like roads underground in Manchester. And that was very popular at one time. Do you get a lot of people urban exploring over there and really looking for all these nooks and crannies to explore?
No one does that over here. Like the Dutch are not a very superstitious and ghost hunting kind of people. Like
they say that in the Second World War, though, they hid in the cave for the Germans.
Yeah, I know there's caves, or I mean tunnels in The Hague, but used for royalty. I know there's some of that, but like, you know, that's the thing with tunnels. You never know they're there till you need them.
Well, I have been through Holland quite a few times, Netherlands, and you know, I'm personally drawn to Flanders, which is on the Belgium area and all that. You know, we've touched things like that with the history side of it of what I do, and that always amazes me. So, any thoughts on, do you come across where you, in your mind, physically trying to help spirits cross over to the light? Do you come in situations where you feel sad at an end of an investigation and you just ask them to go to the light? And
no, we don't do that.
You don't touch that, no?
No, because we can never think that we have the ability to grasp something at that sort of situation. I think
you can always ask your team if somebody needed help spiritually as well. You could always ask your team to help a spirit out if you need to when you're on an investigation.
That's also reflective of the idea that humans have about dead people, that they think they need help escaping or whatever. I mean, that's kind of an idea formed by us. So
I would rather help my team than the spirit.
Yeah. Ooh, where would you say, you touched on 1400s with the prison as well. I mean, I'm just itching to get over to the Netherlands as well. I just want everything back to normal so we can get off traveling and all that as well. What can we look at now? What goals have you got in the paranormal world? What targets have you set? Have you set any targets?
Many targets.
Oh, many targets. Most of them very personal. No, I think we want to. I think I'm the Dutch one. I'm still fascinated with like the Hollywood mixture with the paranormal. I think that's a beautiful combination. So I think we would love to go to America more.
We just want to see the behind the scenes of a really big production. Like I'm really curious how the paranormal looks when it's being filmed for millions of people. I think
the back of the painting.
Yeah, I want to see the back of behind the scenes, under the sheet. Like I really want to see what that's like, because I think for most people it's completely different than like your average ghost hunter. So I think that's very interesting culturally speaking and also artistically speaking. And
I would love to make a documentary about making a paranormal show, for example, something like that.
Now that's a great topic and subject, isn't it? You ladies are going to have to watch more of the Winter Festival of the Unexplained, because I think we've touched on some of them things that you've been asking about. We have touched on some of them as well, so hopefully you can catch up on that as well. I know you love all the paranormal shows. Who's your favorite show? Is it who would you say your favorite show is?
There's some for different reasons.
Yeah.
Well, like there's no way that it's not Ghost Adventures, you know? Like obviously Ghost Adventures is the cream of the crop. Yeah. And Zach Bagans is no doubt the paranormal prince. Like he made it into a thing, I think.
Yeah, but for sure. But we like to also watch the different kinds of attitudes towards the paranormal in all the different shows. So it's like there's this really big niche category of ghost hunting in general, and then now it's like branched off into your approach. So for example, like the Wraith Chasers are very militaristic in their approach to the paranormal, and Ghost Adventures is very like a masculine approach to the paranormal, and then you have Kindred Spirits, who's a little bit more feminine and soft and like understanding. So there's all sorts of different kinds of approaches that we find really fascinating.
But mostly we see that there is something missing.
Yeah,
that we would like to offer.
Yeah.
I'm seeing a bit more of a combined thing going on with you as well, and touching on all this as you're developing going over the next year or two. I could spiritually receiving that now at the moment. Tell us a little bit more. You've got an album, is that right?
We're working on it. We're working on a music album because I love to sing. I'm a musical girl, and I love theater. And I've been to theater school, and I've always really now more than ever, like a ritual and a theater performance, I think are the same thing. They have the same theater comes from ritual. And so I'm making a music album right now together with Sybil. I'm going to perform most of it and sing most of it. It's called Rational Women. And the subtitle is A Requiem for Reason. And I'm going to perform it the 22nd of May in a theater in The Hague. Hopefully I can have a physical audience. If not, I will have a virtual one.
Yeah.
We'll have to share the link for that, and then we'll certainly share that closer to the time. So feel free to add anything onto us, and we'll always share your work and all that as well. So hopefully it's to May on the singing side of it.
Yeah. And I think what we like to do is to just use different forms of art to express our take on the paranormal, basically. And I hope that, and involving pop culture in that is a very big part of it, I think, and make it entertaining, because I think the paranormal is also and something that entertains us, like keeping us distracted from boredom or feeling meaningless.
That's excellent as well. So again, we are all in it for the same things of getting the evidence and trying to work out what's going on with spirits and where they're up to. And if you could have a dream team for a night and go out and investigate with anybody that you'd like to, any numbers, any amounts, who would you like to take on a paranormal investigation with yourselves?
Post Malone.
That was also my answer. Yeah. Post Malone, you're not watching this, but you're coming. If we meet you, you're coming with us.
Hey, never say never. Anybody else? Come on, let's.
Yeah, just bring a bunch of artists.
The weirder, the better.
Yeah.
So a big range of people individually as well.
How do you mean?
With different topics and subjects that they cover, like you're covering art and stuff like that. So all characters, all walks of life are welcome.
Absolutely.
With different powers.
We all have to die, so why not?
Yeah.
It's fun. I want it to be fun.
It should be fun.
I don't like it too serious. It has to be. Irony is also important. Also, when you are contemplating death. I think in contemplating death, irony is the most.
It's like the ultimate comedy, right? Like you're alive and then you have to die. Like that's hilarious and terrible. But like that's what we get. We have a bag of meat with an expiration date. If that's not comedy, I don't know.
That's a cosmic joke, all right.
Yeah, it is.
Have you had the scariest sensations or spirit energy that you've come across? Was it together, or did you have different experiences? What's the scariest moments you've had or felt really tightened up?
I get sleep paralysis like anyone else, so that's never fun or fine or okay. It's never really cool to get sleep paralysis, but I'm more afraid of the energy I get from living people when I'm like, oof, that guy, oh, I don't know.
I've never had a scary moment during an investigation or during filming a location or
it's just the same feeling as feeling cosmically alone, like when you're laying in bed at night all alone and all of those things that come back and the anxiety. I think that's exactly the same thing as haunting yourself. So
yeah, I have helped quite a few people with because I do a bit of trance mediumship as well. I've helped people develop where they've overcome certain things. Have you had to overcome anything yourselves where you've had that little bit of inner fear of like a certain, if you're in a nooks and cranny and going into a really tight space or anything like that you've had to overcome? What have you had to overcome in the paranormal world?
I think we are, with every step we take in our research, we have to overcome insecurity and
the idea of your ego and yourself and what it means to make.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think everyone should go to art school for a year, because if you're not crying by the end of it, then you haven't really done enough. Because I think just being honest with yourself and your ideas and your relation to the world, I think like that's very uncomfortable. Most people can't do that.
Like questions like, am I a terrible person? Am I a complete narcissist? And then going back to crippling self-doubt.
Am I doing something that matters? Does it matter to me? Do I care what my parents think?
Am I a nice person?
Yeah. These are very hard things to overcome, and I think they're essential to live a good life.
Yeah, and as again, it's not about explaining to other people around you, your friends and family. You just go out and do it and express yourself as well. That's amazing as well. And certain people I tell certain things about, and then there's certain things I don't tell other people about. It's having that balance as well within your normal daily routine in life as well.
You cannot really have that balance though when you're fishing in the paranormal pool. There's not really
doing arts. You have to be honest all the time.
There is not really a strict line between this is what I like to express and this is what I'm keeping for myself. You cannot really. You have to be a little bit naked.
Yeah,
and that's scary. That's scary sometimes.
So, any other topics or subjects you've got planned for 2021? Where are you looking at investigating the rest of this year? When we can up and running? When do you think we'll get
angels?
I want to communicate with some angels. I'm going to see if I can find some.
Okay, there's I've come across that in a few situations as well. Another spiritual lady around me, and sometimes if you close your eyes, ask for a higher energy to come in as well, and you'd be surprised how a room will feel heightened as well. So if you're in a situation where it's quite heavy in a room, you can ask.
I want to speak to the scary ones.
Yeah, we consider angels as divine algorithms,
like hierarchical beings with ultimate knowledge that give you the feeling of being this small.
Are you believers in earth angels?
Something like that.
The people that's doing good on this plane now today, like somebody tripped over and somebody's gone and helped them up, and when they get up to thank them, they turn around and that person's not there. So that's like that type of earth angel where there's somebody doing good, and then by the time you get yourself back together of what's gone on, you turn around and that person's not there.
Caught up in like issues of morality. So like, I think that's a tricky land, because then I have to decide what is good and then what is bad. And
that's like the paranormal. I think most people see it as a moral extension of the physical world. And I would like to put my questions, like how do you say, I want to doubt that.
Yeah, but again, it's little experiences there where you can doubt it, but you can ask the questions as well the other way as well as you're moving forward on your investigations as well, can't you? We're testing these boundaries all the time, aren't we, ladies? You know, so where you're looking at one thing and testing the boundaries that way, we can test the boundaries the other way as well, can't we?
Yeah.
What other experiments do you do when you're doing a paranormal investigation? What do you like to test for, basically, in outdoors or indoors? What certain things do you like to do when you're investigating out there?
Well, normally indoors. I mean, we're not really we're not looking for proof. We're looking for truth, and that's a totally different approach than most people I've met doing paranormal.
So we don't really go in looking for something. It is more that the place just happens to us, and then what comes out of that. And
I know. Go on, carry on. Sorry, carry on, Rose.
I don't think like nature and indoors, same approach. I think very different outcomes.
Do any of you notice sometimes you're drawn to female spirits more, or like some people are drawn to young children more? What's your own take on what you're drawn to? Male, females, youngsters, anything like that?
Genders.
She doesn't think ghosts have genders.
All right, okay.
If you don't have a body anymore, why would you keep it?
Okay. Well, in like past lives and things like that as well, I believe the soul can be male or female as it's moving forwards again. You know, so I think a soul would have had a male and a female past in the past as well. So, as you say, collectively, it would have them sensitivities of male or female's origins as well in past lives.
It turns into a complicated question when you ask, like, what if a trans person died? What kind of gender would they have? So why even have one? I think when you die, you're post-gender. Like, if you're not inside your bodily prison anymore, why would you want to keep the thing that held you back, you know?
Is where you said you had the sleep paralysis as well, is a situation, did that start from a youngster? Or did that start, when would you say they started?
Nightmares, just like any other child has. You know, we think that when we're children, the things that we can't explain are paranormal, but also that's part of our bodies growing and changing. You know, like brains are weird organs.
Quick first.
Massive computers, aren't they, realistically? And sometimes I feel that I try and explain to people we have to defrag our minds of what's gone on in the daily field of our lives. When we go out investigating, we've got a blank canvas. That's what I always like to say. So whatever's gone on in the day, get to your location, forget about everything that's gone on in the day. It's always a nice routine as well, is just to clear the mind.
Yeah, I think we feel the same way, but I think we go a little bit further. Like a clear mind also means leaving all your conventions behind.
Yeah.
And not comparing
your assumptions.
The afterlife with the physical world, even though it's impossible to not do that, but still clear mind means also forgetting the rules.
Yeah. Forgetting what you know about ghosts.
Say again, Sybil.
It's forgetting what you think you might know about the afterlife, what you think you already know about ghosts. For example, that they are gendered. Like, you just let it go.
Do you do any studies around UFOs, ladies? Do you do any of that extraterrestrial hunting?
I'm an extraterrestrial skeptic.
Okay. And why is that?
It's
I think the UFO phenomenon is relatively recent in modern history. You have, like, of course, they were angels before, and then they're UFOs, and they kind of oscillate between the two, like, depending on who's giving the talk, and they're like angels, aliens, like outside information being received by people on Earth. So I think it's just another way of describing language that arrives to you from outside of yourself.
Yeah, I think I have a problem with scale. I think it's a scale problem I have with aliens. Like, if I'm forced to believe in aliens, then I will also have to accept the size of the universe, and I'm not ready.
I think it's going to be vast, isn't it? I'm reading quite a few stories that scientists are finding black holes seem to be all over the place all at the moment as well. So they're testing the boundaries that way. If randomly now onto a question, if you could go and investigate with anyone, anywhere in the world, where would you go? Where would you go?
Where would
I'm going to Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Las Vegas.
Definitely.
Yeah, Las Vegas. I think Las Vegas is a magical place, but not in the same way a graveyard or a cathedral or a castle is. I think it's still magical, but in a different way.
Okay. Would you like to have gone there prior to it being evolved, Las Vegas? Because it's not a very old place, is it? Realistically.
Right now.
For us, the age of a place doesn't matter. If there's living people inside it, it's just as haunted as it was 500 years ago. It doesn't matter for us.
So we're waiting on them plane flight ticket prices to drop down now, aren't we? Because they're still holding all the prices up there, aren't they? So you ladies really do need to get to America.
Like Disney World, that would also be interesting.
Yeah, or a haunted Walmart, you know?
Yeah, like a mall.
Well, I'm American, Rose is Dutch, so I haven't been home in a while.
So where are you based over in America? Where was you born in America?
I'm from Colorado, from the Old West, so I've got a lot of cowboy ghosts in my history.
We were touching on that the other day as well. It just seems to be that sometimes I get flashes of places when I go back. I get time flashes, like time warps. Do you have any experiences of like time zones where you see any images or you sense as if the building's come alive and gone back in time as well? Yeah. I always call it letting the layers coming off of the building, and then you think, I feel like I'm here 100 years ago.
Yeah, but my investigation would be to think about how much of the things I've seen in my life, like through media and television and the internet, how much those memories are affecting what I think I'm seeing. So I think that's a very important influence that most people don't think twice about. Like,
they don't see it as a factor.
How does your culture influence the way you see the afterlife? How does your culture influence the way you see your own memories? Or the images that you get when you walk into a place, right? Because if you walk into a cowboy bar, you've never been there before, you're going to think about all the Western movies you've seen. Like, it's a loop, you know?
Pre-programmed that you're thinking of, yeah. The also as well, it would be amazing to have a time machine, which I do touch on quite a lot. That would be amazing.
Art history.
Yeah.
That's a time machine.
Yeah, it is.
Look at a painting that was painted a couple of 100 years ago. You're gonna know something about that time. You're gonna be there.
Tell me about history, because you're the historian. You like historian, don't you? Love history. Tell me more. Tell me more about that side of yourself.
The thing about art history is that when you look at a painting, you're not just looking at it aesthetically, right? You're not just seeing like, oh, it's very beautiful. I like those colors, blah, blah, blah. It would look nice above my couch. Like, if you really look at the image, you're getting a perspective of the period of time. You're getting a perspective of what the image is about. You're getting a perspective on how that person saw that. You're also getting a perspective on how all of that interacted together as a whole. And you're seeing the past as the people saw the past. And that's a time machine. You know, you're inside someone else's head looking at the past. It's the same thing happens when you read a book. You're inside someone else's head.
So as well, we are virtually, as paranormal investigators, preserving history and trying to tie things in as well, aren't we? That's how I feel as well.
I think I would like to see it more as exploring history in a way that we look at it now. I think I can only say something about the history from my own perspective,
from the current context.
Yeah,
because I can't see the same statue. Okay, say you have like a Greek or Roman statue, right? And then you have someone from 500 years ago looking at it, being like, "This is what I think about this now in 1700." And then now you look at it, and then you're gonna have a completely different idea than what the person thought in 1700 about it.
Yeah.
And you're also going to have a different idea about the person that made it. So you can only figure it out at the time. Like, for example, many people didn't even know that Greek and Roman statues were painted until recently because they don't light.
They looked ridiculous.
So they looked absolutely ridiculous by our own standards today.
Yeah.
And these are how like ideas are changing, you know, like
we thought the Romans just really liked the calm, beautiful, white, serene statues, but they were like hysteric, like
they were crazy. They were yellow and red and orange and blue. Yeah.
So you can imagine some of them palaces and the Roman places with all the features in alone as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Sometimes when I go to a castle or I go to a location, I see it back in its time. So I've been to an abandoned castle and I see it all lit up. I can see all the drapes and everything. So that would be like the type of thing that when you're seeing it in the Romans build up of all these statues, as you're saying, it's just amazing what we come across, isn't it?
Yeah, another time travel or way to channel history for what I find really effective is to play a role, to like play an archetype, play a role of a character in history. For example, I love to channel Shakespeare's character Ophelia, and whenever I channel her, I feel like I can feel something of that time resonating in myself.
Excellent.
By acting, basically, but I would never call it acting because it doesn't feel like acting. It feels as like it's inside me. It's me. Yeah.
In the future, and I'm talking decades ahead, if you obviously wasn't here, do you feel that you'd be a ghost yourselves? Would you go and haunt somewhere? Would you go and communicate with someone?
Yeah, Rose is not a haunter.
I wouldn't.
She's not a haunter.
I want to go.
You kindred spirit.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think I would haunt either. I think that seems really sad.
It seems like torture, like you being here without influence. I don't know.
Yeah.
We were watching the movie Ghost yesterday with Patrick Swayze, and it just seems like a terrible situation to be alive without influence, or like I don't want it. I don't want it.
Is there any groups over there as well as yourselves? Is it where you say it's not very big over there in the Netherlands? Is there any groups you'd recommend for people that want to join or get in and around or in contact with you? What would you say to people that want to be coming up and coming that's quite local to you? What advice would you say to them?
Follow us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm already doing.
Yeah.
There is some paranormal groups like slowly, but they're all copying the American business model, I think.
Yeah.
I think, definitely. We need to come away from the TV side of it, I feel, and then we run with what you're doing and as it is, and raw with yourselves and what you're capturing as well. It's fantastic. I've seen one little video clip on the Hague Bell Tower. Have you actually been there?
Mm-hmm.
Have you? Yeah.
Yeah, it's an interesting story, those bells, because you hear them every day. And I'm always like the really nerdy kid that likes to take the historical tours that no one else likes to go on. So I'm always like right behind the tour guide, like asking them questions and asking how old stuff is and filming them. And they're like, whoa, this girl needs to take it easy. And then I'm like very curious. And yeah, so these bells in the church tower in The Hague here were stolen by the Nazis.
They've been at the bottom of the ocean.
And then like the Dutch resistance tried to stop the ship, of course. Yeah. And they sank the ship, the Dutch resistance, and the bells fell to the bottom of the ocean, and they stayed there for, I think, 2 or 3 years, something like that. And then they were recovered and put back in the tower. So very interesting story.
So now, knowing that, I think you can call it a haunted object.
Yeah. And they ring every day, so pretty crazy.
Right. I have actually investigated in a bell tower. And obviously we've asked the question, is any spirits there? Can you let us know you're here? And then the bells rang, and it wasn't on the hour, it was about 5:02 or 10:02. And that was quite eerie as well. That was in a quite renowned town.
That's so impressive, those bells.
And that was just mind-blowing, that as well, ladies. So again, can you give us a recap that where people can find you, please, Rose and Sybil?
Well, we're mostly on Instagram, and then we also have a YouTube, which is just type in the Ghost Maidens. You'll find us in YouTube.
The Ghost Maidens.
Do not forget the the. Everyone forgets the the.
There are no Ghost Maidens. There's just
the
us Ghost and a Maidens. Movie in Nigeria. Yeah.
But mostly, since we're trying, we've been doing this for about 2 years professionally, so we don't have any budget, of course, to make our movies. So we started a Patreon. And
yes. You can tell us more about that.
Yeah, you can on Instagram. There's of course a link tree in our bio that will link you everywhere, to our website, to our YouTube, to our tip jar. You can leave a one-time tip in the PayPal page. Very easy. And then you can also join our Patreon. But our Patreon is very secret.
And exclusive.
Yes. So we post all of our full-length videos there. We have a lot of other fun stuff we do. We do like dream and symbol interpretation. And we also make paintings and poems that we're both skilled artists, so we can make painting and poems.
Our music album will be featured there, obviously.
And we post all of the things that we're interested in, all the things we're reading, all the things we're watching. So you get like a really like what's under our sheet.
Yeah, you can have a look behind the scenes as well sometimes.
Yeah, and you can. It's very cheap. We're very cheap. You can pay $2 a month, and you get all of that. We're very cheap. And excellent. You can also go on a date with us. You can have dinner with us, and then we'll talk about immortality or mortality.
If you become our Patreon, we can start a relationship.
So that's a very cheap date then.
We're very cheap. No, that one's a little bit more expensive, but it's still very cheap considering. We make your life for you.
Right, I'm going to have to check that out as well. Instagram as well, and also the album, and you've got the movie coming out as well. So everyone can contact you through the Instagram page.
Yeah, and we can send you links, whatever you need.
And the website as well.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm going to say thanks for your time tonight. And it's been a pleasure. And to be honest, I can't wait to be traveling soon. And I will be going that neck of the woods. I definitely know that.
Nice. Great. So, looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Rose. Thanks, Sybil. Thanks, the Ghost Maidens. It's been a pleasure from Festival of the Unexplained. It's been a pleasure. And it's great to see different insight into somebody that's doing it in Europe as well. That's fantastic. Keep up the great work.
All right.